There is sometimes a pretty big difference between how the legal system is supposed to work and how it actually works. And you probably did not need me to tell you that. In 2018, the longtime housekeeper for the Murdaugh family of South Carolina, she died after a trip and fall, the details of which are still pretty murky, but not as murky as the legal proceedings that followed that accident. The sons of Gloria Satterfield, that housekeeper, well, they moved to sue Alex Murdaugh, who just had quite a week, as you probably know, supposedly at Murdaugh's behest. Weirdly, think about that. They sued him because he asked them to. And then he asked them to use a lawyer that he would supply for them. Oh, that's awfully nice. Quote, Alex Murdaugh told those kids, Tony and Brian, told their uncle and aunt, that he was going to take care of the boys because he was going to sue myself for the death of Gloria Satterfield. That's from a lawsuit that was filed this week by the family's brand new lawyer, who points out that the old lawyer, unbeknownst to Tony and Brian, he was a former college roommate of Alex Murdaugh and Alex Murdaugh's best friend and the godfather of Alex Murdaugh's son, Paul Murdaugh. That's just nuts. The lawyer's name is Corey Fleming, and there's also a name for that kind of arrangement that I just described. A lot of people call it conflict of interest, but since that's a legal term, I'm going to say allegedly. But if it's true, it's really big. For Gloria Satterfield's family, it was also very expensive because a few months later, Alex Murdaugh's insurance companies agreed to pay out. Yep, we got you covered. We're going to pay for that trip and fall, Gloria Satterfield. We're going to pay at least $500,000. But as it turns out, it seems it may have been much more. And when I say much more, like a hell of a lot more, like $4 million. And the family, well, that should have been great. That should have helped those boys, right? Now that they don't have their mom, they haven't seen a penny. So tonight, with the ink barely dry on their lawsuit, the family's brand new lawyer, Eric Bland, is asking the South Carolina bar to sanction that old lawyer, Alex Murdaugh's BFF, Corey Fleming. And it just so happens that Eric Bland is live with me now from Columbia. Welcome back to the program, Eric. Did I get anything wrong in that characterization of how the last 3 years went?
Barry, you're spot on. The only thing is I'm not asking the bar to sanction him. I just merely perform my duty to inform the bar as a lawyer of our state when I know that somebody else has possibly violated the rules of professional conduct. I'm duty-bound to inform the bar, and then the bar does their own investigation. So I supplied them with a copy of the complaint, and presumably they will start an investigation.
So what does that mean for Corey Fleming? Because, the layperson in me says that's just icky. Maybe he should lose his license. But is there something more sinister? Is there something criminal to that?
I'm not going to venture into the criminal, but there is something that could jeopardize his license if the bar was to find that he had misappropriated money or assisted others in misappropriating money from clients or secreting material information from the clients in order to enrich others instead of his duty of fidelity to the clients. He could have his license impacted either through suspension or ultimately he could lose his license. Two things we were told in law school: never lie to your client, never steal money from your client. If you do, you're going to lose your ticket.
But we out here outside law school, we're told you're going to go to jail if you steal money from people. So that's why I asked. This sounds like he could be exposed also to the criminal procedures.
Like Al Capone went to jail for income tax evasion. He didn't go to jail for, all the killings that he did. I believe that this case is at the epicenter of what's going to happen ultimately in Hampton County to the Murdaughs and a lot of different people because of the amount of money that has not been accounted for and misappropriated. I think that ultimately people are going to lose their law licenses. I think there's going to be a real microscope into the judicial system and how this took place, where approvals were given for these type of settlements without them being on court record, without there being a court order approving these settlements. I think it's going to be a top to bottom look. And I really do think that at the end of the day, there's going to be a cleanup that happens, because this is really an indictment on the South Carolina justice system. We don't like the way we're looking to the rest of the world and the nation. It's not who we are. And I really do believe that our Chief Justice and a lot of the people in the justice system are going to be looking at this. And it's this particular case that is going to cause a lot of people to have to take pause. You know, when you're talking about $4 million being misdirected, it's being done by mail, it's being done by wire, it's being done through different banks, which implicates all kinds of money laundering, conspiracy to commit fraud, all those type of economic business crimes that carry with it extensive penalties. The thing that I learned today that really shocked me is that Mr. Murdaugh set up a dummy company and a dummy bank account where the money that was sent from Corey Fleming after he took his attorney's fees went to a company called Forge. Believe it or not, Forge. That's the name that Mr. Murdaugh chose to have the money deposited in. And he took that check and deposited it in an account, and he took that money allegedly for himself. The reason he used the word Forge is we have a company in Georgia called Forge Consulting, which does structured settlements for large settlements. And that is, if you get $1 million settlement, you don't want the money to go all at one time to a minor, you can structure it to be paid out over a number of years, and you purchase an annuity so that over a course of 15, 20 years, that $1 million can be worth $3 million. And so it's allegedly Mr. Murdaugh had Corey Fleming make that check payable to Forge, the remaining amount of that almost $4 million that was recovered, and then he took the rest, or that's what we are told. So
Eric, that is a massive, that is a massive allegation. So let's just sort that out for a second. First of all, are you working with the police with regard to this? Because by my estimation, and, you know, in conference with very smart lawyers, that is mail fraud, wire fraud, theft of trusted monies, which is all extraordinarily serious. Are you working with the police on all of this with regard to what Alex Murdaugh could be exposed to?
No, I'm working with the lawyers who are representing parties. And Ashley, there are a lot of lawyers who know what happened in this case in that town. And a lot of people are contributing information. It is a fact that the check, according to Mr. Fleming, was made out to Forge, was sent to a P.O. box. That money should have been sent to the personal representative, because that personal representative has an obligation to the court to marshal all the funds, account for them, and then distribute them according with the court order and according with the intestate law of South Carolina. It seems that Mr. Fleming bypassed the personal representative and sent the check directly to Mr. Murdaugh. It should have gone to Mr. Westendorf, where Mr. Westendorf would have to report to the probate court how he distributed those funds, because they were both wrongful death funds and a thing called survival funds. Wrongful death, the money goes directly to the heirs because of the death of Gloria Satterfield. And then $25,000 of that $505,000 is a survival claim because she survived for 3 weeks. And that has to go through the probate court. That was not done here. So initially, when we thought it was just a $505,000 piece of litigation, we quickly learned that that was an excess policy settlement, an umbrella policy settlement. But there were more than $3 million of other insurance policies that were settled, that Mr. Fleming took his fee. He made sure he took his legal fee, all the duties that he has to the client to pay the money, the net money to them. He made sure he got his legal fees, and then he gave the rest of the money to some P.O. box and wrote a check to Forge. And he knows that Forge is not Forge Consulting, because, Ashley, when you do structured settlements, there's a whole host of paperwork that has to be filled out, a whole host of agreements that have to be signed, settlement agreements. And you actually have to get the permission of the beneficiaries that they're willing to take their money over time, as opposed to get a lump sum check.
So, Eric, Are you saying that net the attorney's fees, which as I recall were somewhere around $177,000, the
No, no,
$3
no, no.
million
No, no.
plus? So go ahead.
Yes. A third of $3 million plus. So Mr. Fleming got paid at least a third of what totally was recovered, which we believe is $4 million, Ashley.
So over $1 million in attorney's fees, and then you're saying the remaining $3 million went into this forged dummy company, and you know about it, and you're suing to get it back. Does it still even exist?
I'm told that Mr. Murdaugh has gone through all his money. You know, Mr. Harpootlian got up in court over the past couple of days and, you know, came up with the smokescreen defense that he has this 20-year opioid addiction. How is somebody gooped up on opioid and trying cases, acting in front of juries and coming in court? It's impossible that you can spend those millions of dollars just taking street-level opioids. It's a defense. I get it that Mr. Harpootlian has to come up with a defense, but he better go back to the drawing board because that one's not going to hold water.
Okay, so Eric, hold with me. I want to just fit in a quick break, but when we come back, I do want to ask you some very important questions about Tony and Brian. That's Gloria Satterfield's sons who were due the money and got nothing, because I've read some things about their life that, you know, at one point their mom was homeless, that the funeral wasn't even supported by the Murdaughs, that life had been very difficult for them. So I want to get an update on how they're doing. And then I also want to ask you some questions we discovered today in the probate court about Paul. There's a whole estate opened up for him in probate, but nothing for Maggie. I want to ask about the significance right after this break. We're breaking some news tonight with some explosive allegations in the, wait for it, Murdaugh saga, specifically the 2018 death of Murdaugh's housekeeper and the insurance money, upwards of maybe $4 million of it, that no one seems quite able to account for, except for Eric Bland, who just now has said, pretty heavy allegation there, Eric, that you believe that millions of that settlement went to a dummy company called Forge, and definitely not to your clients. Can I ask you about your clients? Because the reporting on Gloria is that 25 years she worked for the Murdaughs, that she was homeless for a lot of it, really had money problems, and that the funeral wasn't paid for by the Murdaughs. How are the boys? What's their circumstance?
They're salt-of-the-earth kids. One's in the late 20s, others in their young 30s. They're not wealthy by any means at all, hardworking kids. They're betrayed. They feel betrayed. They're scared. They're shocked. Obviously, now that they heard that there's a possible criminal investigation in the death of their mother. You know, it was traumatic to lose your mother at that age when she was 57. But you know, they've been dealing with a whole host of emotions over the past 2 weeks, realizing that they've been betrayed by a family that they had tremendous respect for. It took a tremendous amount of courage to go hire a lawyer, consult with lawyers to possibly bring these type of allegations against the Murdaugh, Mr. Murdaugh and his family's name. And then to find out that these people that you trusted for so long, possibly, the state is looking into, had a hand in the death of your mother in a way that was not accidental. That is scary.
So, Eric, I have two more questions for you in very little time, and I want to cover them. The first is that there is so much chatter and even, you know, allegations made to police after the boating accident that the Murdaughs get away with everything. One of them is that this was said by one of the kids in the boat, that that Paul pushed her down the stairs. That's a huge allegation, but is there anything to it that you know of now as you dig into this case?
I do not. I take, you know, Alex at his word that he said his dogs tripped Gloria down the stairs. So until I see contrary evidence of that, we have to take him at his word. However, his credibility at this point is extremely bad. We know that because of all the
I think that's fair. Yeah, the whole shot in the head part, but he looks great. Then this last part, and I only have about 30 seconds, but I really do want to know about this. We checked the court records, and it turns out that an estate's been opened up in probate court for Paul Murdaugh, but not Maggie. They both died on the very same day in the very same way. It seems odd that there wouldn't be an estate opened up for both of them. Do you see anything, you read anything into that?
Not necessarily. They have time to open it up, but one may have had a will and the other did not. Maggie probably did have a will and a trust, and Paul has died intestate without a will because he was so young. So it does make sense that he may have opened up an estate, but it wouldn't surprise me that Maggie will open up an estate through some other personal representative. Now, if she didn't die, believe it or not, her husband is entitled to 50% of her assets as well as her surviving child, Buster. So
I will say there was an application for what's called a renunciation of appointment, meaning Alex did not want to be the natural representative for Paul, and instead that was handed over to Randy. I am right out of time, but will you join me again next week? This has just been so enlightening. I so appreciate your time. Thank you, Eric Bland.
People are going to start to talk if I keep joining your show, Ashley.
I have to keep saying allegedly, because it's just sort of astounding, all the things that you're telling me each night. Eric, have a good weekend, and thank you for this.
Take care.